Recording. All right, good morning, everybody. It is 9:59 or 7:59, and we're going to get started here. Then we get through the disclaimers and get that out of the way. Trading the foreign exchange while margin carries a high level of risk and may not be suitable for all investors. The high degree of leverage can work against you as well as for you. Before deciding to invest in foreign exchange, you should carefully consider your investment objectives, level of experience, and risk appetite. The possibility exists that you could sustain a loss of some or all of your initial investment, and therefore you should not invest money that you cannot afford to lose. You should be aware of all the risks associated with the foreign exchange trading and seek advice from an independent financial advisor if you have any doubts. Today is Friday. We're going to be going till 9:30 this morning. It's the end of the week, and I think there's some other people coming in after us, so we have to get out of the room by 9:30. This is a live trading room. It is for educational purposes only. No financial advice or recommendations will be provided. Any trades taken during this live session is not a recommendation or a suggestion that you should also do the same. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Do not trade money you cannot afford to lose. And before trading live, always operate with a written trade plan that identifies rules for entries, exit targets, and a risk management. Having said that, we are currently in, we had an alert at 7:30. I'm going to change my screen here. Stop sharing. And we're going to share. And we're going to share screen 2. And now we have all those preliminaries out of the way. We don't have a lot of, we got some more people coming in, that's good. And so right now we did have an alert on the Aussie US at 7:30. I just drew that, and actually I didn't really even see the alert until after the fact, but this is where we would have drawn the wedge. Here's where the alert was, and it was a descending wedge. So I started my A up near the top, bring it down, see where I can find a little. I like seeing 3 points if I can. If I can't, then I just take the 2 points and wait for a third point somewhere past where the alert was. This one seems to be pretty good as far as making. Here's an anchor, here's a hit, here's another hit before the alert. That's a pivot high, here's a pivot low. There's where we put the trend going down and for the wedge, and then we pretty much flattened it out. I just keep this one down here at the bottom. Now, when we got the alert, this was where the low of the blue candle was, right in this area. This red candle was actually where the break was, but that was right on when the alert happened. So unless you're sitting here, you wouldn't have caught that. This was the bottom of the wedge where we had our BD line, and a nice break, closed below. And when I look at these, I also like to look at the where my second, where the level of the, let me take this one off here. Like where I have the D, I like to see a close below that. Up until a couple, well, I just started looking at this. Remember, some of you were here before, we used to draw a trend line, and then we bring it down 2 pips to create a zone. Draw a trend line, we bring it down 2 pips and say, here's where our entry zone was. That is one method of doing it. Another method that I've been looking at a little bit harder at is where my D is. We have our BD line. I'm trying to see, I want to see a close below the D, because basically what it was, that was a pivot low. And if you get another low that can close below that, which this red candle did here on this 5-minute chart, that's a good sign that that's now that this wedge has now been broken. And you can see where this thing came all the way down here. And that was a big move when I'm looking at, as I look at this, at least this looks big. Let me see how many pips it is. That was from, here's the wedge that was at 71.71, and it was down, came all the way down to 71.64. That was 6 pips. So this is basically a 6 pip. This is a big candle in a 5-minute chart, but actually broke the wedge by 6 pips. It came back up, actually retested about where our 2 pip line was. And then we'll give you another chance to get in. Looking at the 1 minute chart. A lot of times, like I said, we try to tweak these points. I'll bring my D all the way over here just to make it as tight as I can. Here's where the alert was. We had a nice little move up from the D up to where the C was. We have a nice little move up. And then we had a break. And I'd be looking at these these blue candles, and I'd be looking to see a aggressive entry would have been, if you were right here, an aggressive entry would have been when the moving averages flipped over to the right direction and you had a break of a close below this blue pivot candle. I like to see both of them. I like to see both the moving averages moving in the right direction. We have the 62, the 13, and then the green one's the 5. Have all those in line moving out. Have a nice red candle that breaks and closes below the blue. That would be an aggressive entry to be looking at this for the target down here. You can see it came down near it, bounced. It did break right here at here's a close below our D line. Like I said, we looking to see a close below as an alternative method. Here's the close. Here's the retrace back to the wedge. And then now we have a nice move down where all our moving averages are still, and you're seeing that's tracking right now, is tracking this yellow 62. If you go to the 5 minute chart, you'll see probably see the same thing here. Where we had drew the wedge, here's our D. We had a 5 minute close right here. Get the close below, enter the trade. You may want to wait for a little bit of a pullback, or you could just enter it right there. And then you look for your 7 pips. And in this case, you probably would have already been there. There's 14 pips already. So that you have made your daily target on that alert.
Yeah, that's a beautiful move today on that one.
Yeah, and we also had one with the US CAD this morning. I'll draw this one out. And this one is doing this pretty much the same type of scenario. We had the alert. It was an ascending wedge. Let me redo a replay on this one. I'm going to take this off because I'm going to be showing you something here. So we had a couple of different things we could look at. One, I was looking to see where there was a new trend developing. So I just put a straight trend line down where the pivot low is. Here was the next point. And so I'm just looking for this as a reference, a pivot line. We also this is where we actually drew the wedge off of this low right here up to where the wedge alert was. And so there's the A, here's my B, C, and then my D goes right up here at the top before the alert. Now, this is on a 15-minute chart. Let me go to a 5-minute. I'm just going to play this on a 5-minute chart just so you can see. I might lose it on the 1 minute, so I'll just play it off of this. The next 5-minute candle, you see it came up. Here's the alert. So right now we don't have a new candle yet. Next candle, okay, this is the candle where the alert came in. And you can see where it just barely ticked the top of where this D was. You just get another alert? No.
I didn't hear an alert.
No, I just heard that was the text message that came through.
Oh, okay. No, I was just answering. Jannar. Jannar was asking about the indicators package, and I was just mentioning.
I sure wish I had an answer. I haven't heard any more about it. I sure wish I had an answer for you on that. Still working on it. Still haven't. Don't have any confirmation. I do believe it will happen, and I'm sorry it's taken so long. I just don't know what the holdup is right now. I think right now we're waiting for the contract to the developers to be agreed to, and then probably should happen. Okay, so and right now we're actually right now everything you're looking at right now, other than this RCS tool, is is available now just on TradingView. It's just a matter, and this is I mean, the RCS tool is hugely valuable, but right now we're looking pretty much price action. Now I'm going to show you this one pretty much just on price action and moving averages. I'll show you how I got into this trade and how I took my profits on it. So right here is the wedge. 5-minute candle came up, wick down. Next candle comes in. It's a red candle, and you can see that right now this is kind of a 5-minute engulfing candle. So right now, if we would need to have right now when I I'm going to move the D up here because this is where the alert was, and we're back into the wedge with a red candle, and we're looking for a pull. But right now we're looking for a pullback. And you can see where on the RSIs we had the blue one was up here at the 89. You can see where the orange one was right at the 70 area. And now we have the hook. So right now it's coming back down. Now we're looking to see where is this thing going to come down, all the way down where the blue, I'm looking for the blue to come down to the 89 and then hook again. And at that point, I'd be looking to see maybe possibly be able to take this long. As we're looking right now, we're looking at the U.S. is showing the strength right now. This is on a 5-minute chart. It was showing the strength on the 15-minute as well. And the U.S. is the first currency of the pair. So if it's strong, we're looking at this thing to go to the upside. So right now we're looking at this being a pullback. We already know that it came up here and it tagged. And so right now this wedge is valid in this case. Now we're looking to see how low is it going to go to this line down here. And I'm going to take this one off here for right now because we don't need this right at the moment. And we're looking at this area right here. And if it comes down and breaks the wedge, gives me a close below this C, I'll be in this trade. And so, but right now we're still looking at this thing as being a pullback to go long. Come down, there's another, okay, right now you can see where we have a high, a low, a lower high, a lower low, and a lower close. So now I'm just looking at this candle formation right now. Next candle. We have a lower high, a lower low, a lower close. Here's the close of this candle. We have a lower high, lower low, lower close. And the close is all the way down here. Next candle. Okay, now we have a nice strong candle up. So right now, this is what I would consider this to be a pivot low. It's not a real strong pivot, but it nonetheless, it made a low. Now it has from this red candle, it has a higher high, it has a higher low, and it closed blue, which just means, and it also closed higher. And so this candle right here is this 3-candle series is a significant area. So I'm going to draw a box around this. Because right now what we have, and I'm looking to see if we can get an engulfing candle of some sort. So right now this blue candle isn't this red candle, which are all 5-minute candles. In the last 10 minutes, this blue candle spanned pretty much the range of those 2 candles. So right now I've got a low, and now I have it's starting to show a bit of a reversal, but there's still nothing to hang your hat on just yet. And I'm going to look at my moving averages. I'm going to see where they are. I have a 62 all the way down here below. So if this thing breaks to the bottom, I would expect it to bounce off of this moving average, which is right here where the C is. It's right where I would be looking to see it close below. And you also have another strong trend coming up here. So you have a little bit of rebar here. It's got to get through this wedge, has to get through the 62, and has to get through this other higher time frame trend line. And then the question is, if you get an entry to go short here, how much room do you have before you can be running into this area? And so I would be real leery of a short just because of the range. You're only looking at 5 pips. You can lose 2 pips, or at least a pip and a half on the breakout. You'll have the breakout. You'll be maybe a pip underneath there. You'll lose 2 pips on your spread, and by the time you get your fill, you're going to be right down here where you're going to be looking at this thing bouncing back up again. So that's one consideration if it breaks to the downside. The other consideration is if it breaks to the upside, where are your targets? And so this was, I'm going to take this one off right now. So right now I'd be looking at if it breaks to the upside of this area, we'd be looking at here's where the next target is. So again, is there enough room to the upside if it breaks the top of the wedge? And if you, or can you get an earlier entry to be able to get to where you can make that happen? So we're going to come down again, next candle. Blue candle. Right now you see where this blue candle and this candle, this blue candle is now engulfing this candle. So we can say right now in a 5-minute chart, you've got a blue candle, and right now you have a range being developed here. This candle can break the top, it can break the bottom, and now you're looking at things going sideways. Next candle. We had a wick up. We have a higher, now it broke. Let me see if I can get this on a 1-minute chart. There we go. Yeah, we do. On the 1-minute chart, you see right now you had the close above. All of our moving averages now. So here's where our engulfing candle area was. Hang on a second. And so we had to close above. Here's where our engulfing candles were on the 5-minute. We had to close above. Our moving averages are correct. So right now we can be looking at taking this trade once this thing broke. So I'm looking for a close. We had to close above here. So this was this. So right now, if it, especially if it comes up again, we can take, we have the hook down here. It's in the 60-40 range. Everything's lined up. And so with this move right here, you could possibly take it because now you're starting to see where, again, you're seeing the moving averages are now in the right direction. We still have the strength of the dollar, which is to the upside. You have your crossover by 3. And you could have taken the trade off. When this candle closed, you could have just taken the trade. Take a little bit of heat. Comes back in. You can see it came right back down, tested the 62. All our moving averages are still in alignment. Still in alignment. There's the second break. Then it's still closed a little bit lower than here. It'd be nice to see if it could break. Once it breaks off of this, then we should be off to the races. Let's see what happens here. And this range right here is only 5 pips. So you're still well within your risk tolerance. Here's our second break. And here's another. Now let's see. We have a break. This right now is closed right even with this one. Still trying, and there's the big break right here. So right now you should be in the, everything's, now you're off to the races, you're running, and you're looking at your target being, actually your first target should be probably, here's your first target, and I'll just move this down here, right here. Assuming you got your entry in here. Still taking a little bit of heat. There was a break on the upper part of the wedge. This, if you weren't trying to get in here, if you waited till here, you're still good. And just say you got in at this area. Here's your target 2, up in there. And here's, just came right on up. And now you just bagged your profit for the day. Any questions about that move? And now this thing's, and right now it's just tracking along. And you can see once you've crossed over, and if you go back to your 5-minute chart, You can see that right now it's still, I was still expected to come back and retest, probably retest the top of the wedge. It might give you another entry to go long, or it may just break through the bottom too. But right now you can be tracking, let me take this off. You can be tracking the yellow 62, the yellow moving average, which is the 13 period exponential moving average. You can be tracking it, and we'll see if it's where we're at right now. And that's the end of that's where we are right at the game. So I would not be surprised to see it come back, retest this. We didn't really get a test until down below here once we got out of this area. And now we're off to the races where it's just tracking. Now right up in here, we have a engulfing bearish candle engulfing this blue one. So right now we have a little bit of a range, a lot like what we had down here, but to the upside. So right now we have this blue candle. Let's see, where is this blue candle at? Well, you can see where it wicked up, but then closed. So right now, this box right here between these two blue candles is our range that we're looking at. Now, if it breaks and closes above, we could be looking at another target, which is up here. And I found this by going to a higher time frame. Let's see if I can find it here. I'm going to take this one off just because it's. Let's take this off out of the way. I'm going to take the moving averages off. And so this is where I found this area. If you look on this is on a 3-hour chart. This is a wick. We came in, right now we have these wicks right here. Let's see if this is a strong blue wick. So right now this is where the sellers came in to drive it back down. The blue candle came up, got up this high. Sellers kicked in right about in this area. Drove it back down. So right now, this was all. There's going to probably be a little bit of a battle to get up to the top of this. But right now, you're looking at this wick. Come all the way over here. You see another wick. So you bring it over, take it to the top of the wick. Pretty much run right into another wick. So right here is where I'd be looking at where this zone begins. We did have a little wick up into here. So right now, this would be the zone I'd be looking at. This thing could possibly go on up to tag into this area. And if it may break that, but it's got a whole big supply area right up in here. And the highest that came was pretty much right at the top of that. This blue candle was about as high as it penetrated before this big move. So this is an area right in here. Be looking for a target if you want to hold on that long. Me, I get out with my 7 pips and I'm done for the day. Any questions? This is the zone that we're looking at right now to see if this thing can come up. And we won't know that until as the day progresses, but this is where we are right now with this trade. If you're still in it, you can still be in it. Nothing wrong with that if you want to try and go for this bigger move. Or you can just take your profits and just move on and have something else to do for the day. Questions?
Quiet group.
Yeah, quiet group. So that's the way that one was. We had some news earlier this morning. I did check that earlier. We had some Euro news during the middle of the night, at 3:30 this morning till 3:15 to 3:30. We had some announcements. But right now, there's not a whole lot of no red folder events going on for the rest of the day that I see. So nothing too significant with that. And that's about all I have to say about that. This trade still, I mean, if you could still be in this trade on the US CAD, as well as with the Aussie US. Let's see where that is. We're starting to get a little flag pattern down here. Now we don't have an alert, but we can still look at this as far as a continuation pattern. Strong move down, getting a little bit of a flag pattern. Now here's where you could really make some an interesting target. Is where I use my Fibonacci retracement tool. Come up here to the C where this move started. Come on down and see we're on a what time frame? We're on a 5-minute chart. Come back up and see where this thing, if we can get it to where it breaks the, it's starting to have little higher highs, higher lows, higher high, higher low. This is on a 5-minute chart I'm looking at. And so I'm going to bring this all the way down below here. And we'll see if this thing will, here's where the high was. This is a close. This is our target zone. This thing hasn't retraced more, it's traced less than 38%. If it retraced 38%, it's be all the way up to here. I can read it from down below. And if it can stay within this range and break, I'm looking for a possible engulfing candle here. We still have a nice downward move. It's retesting the yellow 13. So I'm looking at, on a 5-minute chart, I'm looking at this area right in here. And we'll see how this candle develops. Oh, get this. There it goes. Right now I'm looking for a pivot high with 2 lows on either side of it. This is making a new, this looks like it's going to make a new high. We'll see where this thing stops and see where we get a red candle.
Rashawn is asking, so can we still put a short on the Aussie US? I don't know. What do you think?
It's possible. It's possible that we may get another, especially with this flag pattern. This is what we say. We have a nice strong move down. It's retracing. We'll see how far it retraces up. That will be the determination. If it can stay within, I would say if it can stay within this range right here and give us a pivot high followed by 2 lower highs on either side of it with a red candle, there might be an opportunity to take it short. And then depending on where this ends, we may be able to take it all the way down to this area down here.
Al, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Earlier today, I was scanning different pairs for wedge formations. I found a really nice one, believe it or not, with the Euro Singapore. And it actually broke out quite nicely to the bottom. What are your thoughts on it? Is it a volatile pair, do you think?
I have absolutely no idea. I haven't ever looked at it. I do know that one of the EAs that's coming out from Auvoria Prime is going to be having some of these, what I call the exotic pairs of currencies. I think the Singapore being one of them. And what it's going to be doing is it's going to be scanning for some of these lesser known or less traded pairs. And it's going to do some scalping on those. And it's been, apparently the EA's success rate has been very high. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing that coming out and seeing what we may be able to do with that.
Yeah.
I personally have not really watched any of the other pairs besides the 8 that we look at, that the more common 8 pairs.
I just went back and checked it, and it had a 26 pip move out of the wedge.
Singapore is a relatively strong economy, and so I think it'd be worth taking a look at. I just don't trade it, so I have no idea. I don't know what the spreads are on it. That could be a big factor too. I try not to trade anything that has more than a 2 pip spread to it.
Yeah, right now
it's just really,
yeah, it's huge, but if it's moving 26 pips, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of just demoing it for a while, I suppose, before, trying to get into it. But I thought it was interesting. I just thought I'd watch it.
Yeah. I think it's something that we're going to be looking at more and more as time goes on with these some of these exotic pairs. Now that we have an EA coming, that's going to help to gauge that. Nice big move up. Here's, see this blue candle right now has a nice little wick on it. Has a low. They're both all blue candles, but you can see we'll see where this thing closes. Right now, I'm looking at this blue candle right here. We have a high with this red candle. And it's creating a little bit of a zone for us. So right now, this area is, we'll see what happened. It came right up to the yellow 13 moving average. And we'll see if it's going to give us, it's still well within our 38% retracement. And if this thing retraces with this could very well come down. I'll be looking at this for a target.
I've got a couple of comments from the chat for you, Al.
Okay.
Sean says, well, he's got a lot of work to do improving when he enters and leaves a trade. But after watching some of these videos on the weekend, it should be good, hopefully. And he's also mentioning that he didn't see where your take profit was, but this is just illustration purposes for now, right?
This one right now is, yeah, I'm still building this one up, to be honest with you. Right now, this would be my take profit area right here where I just drew out. If this thing comes up and it stays within this 38%, then on these flag patterns like this, I call this is the flagpole, here's the flag, and it's retracing. If it can stay within this 38%, there's a very high odd probability that it's going to come down and tag this 1%, the 1-to-1 ratio. But you'll probably get a bounce. Oftentimes you'll get a bounce off the 78 before that happens. So if this thing gives us the go ahead, I'd say, to take this thing short, my target's going to be, this is going to be the target zone right here. And we put this as, this would be this would be the target. And right now we're looking to see, so I could take this off right. So right now, if it comes to 38, if it gets up to this 38%, which is going to be right up, pretty much right where pretty much right where it is right now. We'll see what it does.
So that EA you were talking about, Jay's telling us is Stratamus, and I remember that because I'm looking forward to buying it. And he's also saying that Singapore is a financial powerhouse, which is kind of good to know.
I think that's true. And a lot of, in fact, my son-in-law's boss lives in Singapore, and he runs this company from Singapore, and they do a lot of investments of large buildings like hotels and office buildings. Yeah, there's a lot of people there's a lot of money in Singapore. It's a big financial center. And we'll see where this thing goes. Right now, we're still looking at this thing to give us a wick, red candle, a zone, and then see if it can break the zone. Here's a little doji right here. You can see this little doji, which is high, low, where the candle closed right about where it opened. Now let's make another move up. This is where, I mean, right now, here's where the wedge was, and we'll see if it's going to come up and retest the bottom of the wedge. If it does, that target zone may have to change some. Because right now, if it comes all the way up to where this yellow-white area is, this yellow line is the zero line. If it comes all the way up to there, that's a 68% retracement, which is right at where the wedge is, where it broke out the wedge. And you can see where the Aussie is right now on the, the dollar is still strong by only by 2. So it is starting to get a little bit, the dollar is starting to get a little bit weaker relatively speaking. Let's do a 15-minute chart here, see what this looks like. Now we do have a nice engulfing candle here on the 1 minute. I'd rather see it on the 5 minute. One moves like this. We're still within our 38% retracement, which is right about where we are. It went retraced pretty much right at 38%. Now we're going to look and see if we can get an engulfing candle on this. I'll be looking at this blue candle. Here's a wick up, lower high, and we'll see what the next candle on the other side of it ends up doing. Here's still my target area. This is still valid. There's our red candle, wick up, higher high, higher low, but right now we're looking at a lower close. And it also looks like it with and we had a lower close than the previous candle and also close at the bottom of this candle. So that's a pretty strong move down. And now we can be looking at our moving averages are starting to cross over. This would be an aggressive entry, but it could be an entry right now. We had the wick up, we had at the 89% on the 1 minute. We have the crossover, we have the close below the moving averages. The 1 minute moving averages are still now in the right spot. Could take a short. There's our fill. This is aggressive. But now we can see where this is a pivot high, a lower high, higher high. It's still maintained. Let's go to the 5 minute chart now. Here's our doji. So we had a lower high, pivot high, and now if we get the close below, which I expect we might do that, we have another 4 minutes. Let's see, do we got the close on the 1 minute? We got the close on the 1 minute chart right over here. And let's put a little trend line up here. So here's where the high was. It's actually had a little bit. Here's an anchor. Here's a hit. Here's where it broke. Right now I'm just using this area just for the trend line. And we'll see what happens. My stop would be up top here. Let me fix my stop. Stop and target. So the stop is above where this thing broke out. So my stop is up here. That's out of harm's way. It's above the 62. If it comes up to the 60, if this thing closes above the 62, I want to be out of this thing. But right now it's got enough, everything's moving in the right direction. Give us a little head fake up here off the 62. We're still in that zone that we drew on the 5 minute chart. We did get the close below. And like I said, our target is right now down in this area. I'll take this off. Here's a pivot high. Let's go back over to the 5 minutes. Since I'm in this trade now, I'm going to go back and monitor it on the 5 minute. Here's our range box. It came down, it's breaking down below. You see one reason why, I mean, this, again, it was aggressive on the 1 minute because we had the close below. But now if we get a close below on the 5 minute, that's going to be help confirmation. But this was we got a little bit better fill. We're already up, we already got our spread, 1.3 spread. I need to see a close below this blue candle right now. So for a target, I want to see it close below that. If it doesn't close below this one, then it may give us another bounce. Here's our 7 pip target right here. Here's our ultimate target right now, and that from that retracement from this little flag pattern. We also have a Fibonacci price point right here on the 5 minute. And we'll see what happens. We have a nice little hook. We have here's a high, here's a lower hook. It's trending on down. Everything's lined up. All the moving averages, or both the moving averages, are below the 40-60 area, heading towards the 11. And so this is our target down here. You can see right now we can follow this thing. If this thing keeps on breaking, we can follow with the 13 moving average on the 5 minute. That's the one I really like following. Had a nice move down, broke, came back up, tested it, couldn't hold it, and now we're going to be able to track it down. And my stop could actually be moving. I could start moving my stop down. Once it breaks, once I get to close below this blue candle, and actually preferably below the wick of it, once I can get a close below this wick, then I can move my stop down. I'd move my stop down to probably where that, somewhere inside the middle of this box. This box could be a retest at some point, but that would tighten our stop up to only 3 pip stop. You have to be careful so that you don't go in, because 3 pip stop, you have a 1.2 spread. I prefer to keep it actually on. Once it breaks down below, then I'll move it down. Until then, I'll keep it on up a little bit higher. Because this thing could come back up and retest this area in here. You don't want to just get wicked out right when you're just before it makes this big break. I'm going to keep my stop above this this fib line. We're pretty much up around where the trend line is, the wedge. But I'll be out of it. But if it comes and closes outside this box, I'll probably close this trade out. So again, I'm looking for a lower close on this. And don't be in a real big hurry to move your stop. Keep it out of to where it's going to do serious damage if it just has a strong move against you. But give it enough wiggle room so that when you see an area that it leaves, it's oftentimes will come back and retest it before it makes the bigger break. And we're on the 5 minute chart. We have this little zone right in here. So here's where the lowest wick was before. So this is an area of, this is sort of like its own little box right here. Once it breaks through here, we have a little zone over on a level here. Again, this is our target down. And if I look over here to the left, we're off the chart as we're waiting for this thing to break down. Come over here to the 4-hour chart. And you can see where all these wicks are. Right now we have, this is the body. We had, so right now, right here on this 5 minute, you can see where it just so happened, this is right where this big move started. So right at this five minute fib line, I would be looking at this area here for where you're going to start getting some buyers coming in. But if we can break through this wick, come over here, here's another wick, another wick, another wick, and then you finally hit the wall. So right in this area would be another area that I'd be looking at as a possible target zone if this thing breaks. Let's see if we can get the close below here. Let's try and I'll go back to my 5-minute chart. So right now I'm looking to see a close below. Move this thing down, move my target down to here. Give us a little bit more of a target. In fact, I'm going to put it right there. That's 11, almost 12 pips. Don't get greedy. Right now, everything's looking good for this thing to, we got the whole moving average, they're all red. It's down here coming down, tagging the 89. Or excuse me, tagging the 11% range on the RSI. We have, what's our time here? 3 minutes. We still have another, this is a new candle, so we still have another 3.5 minutes, almost 4 minutes to go before this current candle closes. You can see this one came down, tagged it, couldn't close below it. But it did make it has a nice move down, a low, lower high, lower low, lower close. I'm looking for you can see how this thing had a low and then where it switched over here. We got that blue candle. We're going to be looking at the same thing on the downside. Right now, there's no reason to get out of this trade. Oh, then to take profits. Now, the fact that this candle couldn't close below, that's you have to keep that in mind that this thing could start to reverse on you. And this is strictly price action analysis that we're looking at. Letting the candles tell you which way to go and let the candles tell you what to do. Right now, we don't have anything that's engulfing yet. Right now, here's a red. Now we're starting to look at a little bit of an engulfing area right here. We'll see if this blue candle can come back up. It may come up and retest this zone right here. Now that we have a higher high, an equal low right now, we'll see if it can close higher than the other close. But right now we're still profitable. We still have our stop out of the way. I would not be surprised to see it come up and retest this box area right in here. And again, the area on this is 71.66 to, so this is, again, this is only 5 pip range in here. And from the time it broke the box, that's 61 to 54, that was your 7 pips. It broke it from here to here, 7 pips. Imagine that. Coming up to retest. Right now, everything is still in our favor to go short. I said, once this thing came down to the 89, I expected it was get a little bit of a hook for a retrace to pull back, retesting this area, which is where it was right up in here. You still have a nice little sloping. If you look at your RSIs, you can see like from here to here, it's still sloping down. Now, if we get a close above this trend line here, we may want to be thinking about reevaluating our position.
It's moving pretty slow, isn't it?
Well, sometimes it just does that. But this was a pretty fast move on, well, even like with this, it was 5, 10, 15, 20. It's still 45 minutes from the peak up here down to here. That's still a 45-minute time frame. I said the main move was all the way when it broke, when it broke here. This was the main move right there. Now it's the question: is it going to keep on trending, or is it? And remember, today's Friday. And remember, this is the Aussie pair, so they've been trading all night long, and now they're starting to close up shop over there in Australia. Oh, I see Christine came in here. Let me move her over here.
Good morning. Thanks.
Yeah, good morning there, Christine. I just saw you that were in there. I'm going to unmute everybody's microphones. If you want to ask a question, feel free to. So right now, if we're looking at this little flag pattern area here, we could draw a wedge on this. I would be taking it right from this pivot height right here, still trending down to here. Here's the high. And now we have a little, and flatten it out. This up to where the high is. Bring our D down so it's flat. Just take it all the way over here. So we just have a nice little wedge that developed. And I said, if we get it, I'm going to move this thing up a little bit more out of harm's way. I don't want to have it come up here and just take my stop because of the spread. If we get a close above the C, I'm going to get out of this thing. Again, the original move was this one right here. This was the move. Now this is just trying to see if it can continue. One thing I don't want to see is I don't want to see a close above this top of this box. I'll make this as a temporary, as my stop zone. Oh, I'm looking for a stop zone in here. It could come up, wick up here, just enough to bring it back down, just to search for stops, and then go crashing on down. So if I get a close above here, then that'd be different. Then that's be a different story. Plus, you have this fib line right up in here. This is where it can get a little bit risky when you start trying to catch a trade in the middle of a move. Now, could very well just come up here and retest the bottom of this of the original wedge. Big strong move. Right now, it's searching for stops.
Nice big candle.
Nice big candle closed above.
Now, when you say searching for stops, Al, you're talking about the brokers?
Yep. Well, I should say no. Well. I guess yes, the brokers, but their automatic trading is probably looking for it. But you have a strong move up like that back into a zone, which I mean, this took it wicked right out of the zone. But here's where my A is. Where's my I'm actually going to use this for, I'm just going to make that a stop. If it comes up and tags that, I'll be out of it. Because this could be a rally, could be basing, and then another rally on up to retest this 62 here. You can see here's a wick, here's a wick, here's a wick, here's the body. So I'm going to use this A, top of the A. This is where it started to break. And find my other. See, we don't quite have the crossover yet of this 5 and 13 here. It came right up to it. Right now it's right on top of each other. We'll see if it can, because if this thing comes back down, this green was going to hook back down underneath the yellow one. If this thing can start up, I'll probably looking at coming back up into the wedge, and we'll see if the wedge is going to hold or if it's going to break out the other side of it. But I'm going to decide where to get out. I don't want it to just stop me out because with a strong wick. I want to make sure that when it comes up and tags and closes, that's where I'm going to try and get out. Or it may just be able to keep me back in again and make that target that we were looking at. So right now this candle broke. Here's the top of this lower wedge. It broke it, came back retesting it right now. If it comes up and brings me a blue candle, I'm just going to close this trade out. If it gives me a close above that stop zone. We're starting to get the crossover here. If you look at the actual values of the green and the yellow over here, the green's still a little bit less, not by much, only by a tenth of a tick. Right now it made this big blue candle is an engulfing candle right now. Everything is inside of it. So right now this is the range that it's in. Let me take this one off here. If you look at our 1 minute chart, see what it's doing. This is almost forming its own little flag pattern. Nice strong move up. All of the moving averages are now in alignment on the 1 minute. I'm just going to close this out. Oh, hang on a second. See what this thing does here. It is making lower highs, lower lows, and we're looking at a lower close depending on when this candle closes, another 40 seconds. We'll see how this candle closes. And we're only looking at probably 3 pips, 65 to 62. We're only looking at 3 pips on this 1 minute chart. It's having a little trouble breaking out of this area right in here. Let's see if this candle can close below this box. This is trading, just sitting here watching candle by candles, watching the grass grow.
Oh, there are worse ways of making a living.
Yeah. Well, at least you're learning the skill to be able to be your own boss.
Yeah, that's the best part.
Lots of wicks in here. A lot of wicks right now. There's a lot of indecision here. Remember, here's our bigger box right here, off that big blue candle that we found on the 5-minute chart. Here's a low, here's a high, here's our trend. Lower low and taking some heat on this one, but so far we're still in the game. This is basically just candle by candle analysis. Let's go see it's breaking out. See if we got to close. New candle right now. We'd still have another 50 seconds. See what our 5-minute candle chart looks like. This is where if you don't understand the price action, you can get yourself emotionally tied up into these things to where you start taking, closing the trades out and then opening the trades and taking it out, and you'll get whipsawed in a big way. It doesn't take too many whipsaws where you get stopped out or you take yourself out before you give up all the profits you may have had earlier in the day. Right now, I'm going to see it close below this box.
Hopefully we get an alert at 9:15. That's in 7 minutes.
It could be, and we'll be done in 22. But actually, you can almost see like here was a strong move down. Here was if you're looking this as from an Elliott wave standpoint, we may have had our big move down, and we may have had 5 waves. All right, here's our A, B, C wave retracement. Now it's coming back to retest this area. Back almost to break even on this. You see how this move would have taken a lot of people's stops out. We still had the wedge to protect us. We still had this other price action to help us out. I'm still looking at a possible target down here.
The RCSs have really changed up.
It hasn't really changed much. It's still showing the dollar being strong.
Right, no, but I'm saying like before it was on the 5-minute was the other way.
Oh, okay. Oh, it was on this.
Yeah.
You know, this. Yeah, you can see where it flipped over here. Aussie's the green one. Now, if this Aussie flips back over again, then we may just want to bail on this. Take a small loss. Nothing wrong with moving the C up here. Tucking the D in down here. A lot of times, this is the time of day. See, at 9:30. A lot of times, you'll get those. You had the early morning run, and then you get the reversal. So where this thing could just keep on going up to way up into this area. Right now, it's just going sideways between this area. Did make a lower high, equal low. Let's see what our 1 minute chart looks like. Get the moving averages across, and I'm going to get out of this trade. If it proves me wrong, there's always an opportunity to get back in again. Right now we have another little trend developing on up here. No more alerts, huh, today?
Not yet.
Last alert was Aussie at 7:30. It's Friday.
Waiting to see if one comes in the next minute or two. It's usual 9:15, but
Right now, I'm just going to take this one off. We had a double bottom right here. Had a higher high, had a low, a high, equal bottom, higher high, higher low. And now our moving averages are switched over almost entirely to, we have the green, we need the white and the yellow to switch over. Hasn't done that yet. So we have a trend coming up from the bottom, and we have this pivot high. We'll see if this thing can trend down. Again, this is only 1 minute chart, so you have to keep that in mind. Here's the break. And the Aussie is now strong on the 1 minute. Let's see where it is on the 15. And we got this cross on the 5. We got the cross on the 1. If we get a candle to close, we could possibly try taking it long if we have enough room here at 72, 65. You can get the 7 pips. Maybe I'll return your loss. But this is where you can get whipsawed. This is where you can get just beat up. But this could be a good target right up in here where the 62 is, up back up into the wedge. For me, I would stay out of this one. I think it still has some room to the downside, but I don't know how high it's going to go before it's going to flip back over again. We did get the close above on the 1 minute. We got the close. We didn't get the close on the 5 minute.
It's respecting that trend line though that you've got
Yep.
there.
And right now we're right near the top of this box that we drew for this big 5 minute candle. If you look at the 15-minute chart, you could take that even a little bit lower, right to the bottom of the where these wicks were. But right now, this is a range that is playing in right here. Here's our yellow 62 on the 15-minute. This thing could come up, retest the wedge again, and then break down. Right now I'm looking at a little bit of a zone. Here's almost a little bit of a doji where it broke. Now it's coming back to possibly retest this area right up in here. Another 27 seconds. This blue candle will close below this box, and that takes this box out of the way. Now we're looking at this area right up in here. Right now, I'd say if it can break through this area right up in here, it's probably going to go up higher. But you also have this 62 up in here. So right now, this thing's, again, is somewhat range bound. As I'm staying out of this one, I'm just staying away from it. Any other questions? Looks like everybody's leaving. Must be time for breakfast. And there's probably no reason to get into this thing until before the market opens in another 9 minutes. But on the higher time frame charts, we're still looking at a possible. Still haven't given up on this target down here. It's coming up, checks in the bottom of the wedge where it broke out, retesting this area. Have a nice little doji right here. We'll just see what it does. If it can come up, if it breaks to the top, then it could be going up up to this area, which is 83 to, again, that's another 7 pips. When we had this strong candle engulf this red candle, that was a sign that this thing could be turning around and start trending to the upside, especially after such a big move coming down. But the odds were still in our favor at the time. But when we made this, that this was still the area. But now we've seen a much stronger retracement. It might be fun to just watch this thing, how it materializes. Another 7 minutes when the market opens. We'll see what it does. It's back up into the wedge. Still respecting this AC line. You see we had lots of hits here and here and here and here. And now it's testing to see this. If it can break that, you have to remember we got the 62 right up in here. I'll take this one off. Let's see what this wedge looks like if we bring, oh, wrong one. Yeah, wicked right up into this box area, and then it's just stalled, respecting the trend line.
Yeah, not much going on with these guys right now, is there?
No, it's just, I'm surprised we're not getting a few more alerts, but we might get some at 8, 9, usually 9:30, oftentimes we'll get some alerts.
Yeah, I noticed that usually when we end the session, within half an hour, we get one or two at least. And I think you're right about the Tuesdays and Thursdays being the busiest.
Yeah, they seem to be the best days overall to trade for the week. And said early morning, a lot of times the early morning we get some of these alerts at 6, 6:30, 7 o'clock. They all seem to work out pretty well for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just sort of goes flat for a little while, and then all of a sudden, usually when the dollar starts to move, that's when you start getting multiple alerts in a variety of directions depending on where the dollar is in regards to the other 8 pair.
Yeah.
So this already had the nice move. It had the nice again. The alert was at 7:30. That was before we opened up, and then but by the time 8 o'clock happened, that 30 minutes already took over to 12, 15 pips.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I don't know, we may need to consider moving the time of this thing up a little bit earlier. I don't know how many people will show up at 7 o'clock in the morning. That would mean I'd have to be up here at 6 o'clock in the morning to get ready.
Yeah, I think that would be a real hardship for the ones on the West Coast.
Yeah. But the bottom line is they're not getting those trades anyway, probably if they're still in bed. Unless they're early morning risers.
This is true. This is true. Yeah, I'm finding like between 5 to about 7:30. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's really been really at least this week has been really good. All right, we have one more minute. We'll see if we get any alerts, see how this candle closes out. I do think there's a possibility that it's still going to come on down, but right now I just have to let the charts tell us what to do. See, it came right up into this, where this little doji was broken, came back up and retested this area. This is where the buyers and sellers were pretty much at equilibrium right in this area. Sellers took over, buyers came back up. Now the question is, will the sellers take over again? I think there's probably a good chance they will. Dollar's getting stronger again on the 15-minute. They're still strong on the 15, but it's right now that they're at a 4 and a 5, which means there's 4 below the Aussie and 2 above the U.S. The U.S. and the Aussie are still pretty much right in the middle of the pack. No real strong dominance on either one or reference to the other pairs. Let me take this off.
Well, everybody.
And it's 9:30. And let's see, give it another couple seconds to see if we get any alerts. And nothing new there. All we were looking at. So this is the end of the session, end of the week. Hopefully you guys had a chance to make some money this week. And we will see you on Monday. Everybody have a good weekend.
Thanks, Al. Have a good weekend. Have a good weekend, Ava.